The news starts right now.
After 55 days of lockdown, Italy's phase 2 has finally begun. It's marked by mandatory masks, open parks, restaurant takeout, and of course, social distancing. In the United States, for the past 10 years, enrollment has decreased by 18% in private schools just like these. During the lockdown, refugees and asylum seekers were largely forgotten. In fact, the UN Refugee Agency reports that at the end of 2019, there were 79.5 million displaced, and that number keeps rising with respect to the number of solutions being created. The Church of Sant'Agnese is visited daily by hundreds of tourists strolling around Rome's Piazza Navona, but it has a secret inside. The controversy surrounding the indigenous naked wooden figure has reached all-time highs. Yes, Tamara, well, we learned that the Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI had escaped the Vatican. Pope Francis began this week at the Vatican meeting with Italy's Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, who's the main figure fighting coronavirus throughout the country. It comes as 6 cases of coronavirus have been found inside the Vatican. Around 170 tests have been carried out, but the Pope and his close collaborators are negative for the coronavirus. Italy is planning to close all of its schools as a preventative measure against the coronavirus. This leaves nearly 9 million students and 800,000 teachers out of work. Since the coronavirus has struck, Italy has become nearly deserted, with dwindling tourism and rising fear. There are more than 50 priests, mostly in the northern region, who have died from the coronavirus. Americans still aren't able to come to Rome, but that's why we're bringing the Eternal City to you. Our first stop is Piazza Navona, Rome's most famous public square.
Vatican correspondent Melissa Butz is leading the way.
Welcome to Rome. Today we're touring Piazza Navona, a favorite of both sightseers and city dwellers alike. These cobblestone streets are normally full of artists, musicians, and tourists, but before the 15th century, they had a very different use. Once in Rome, the obelisk bore witness to the martyrdom of Christians, the raising of the level of the entire square by 70 feet at the end of the 19th century, and the onslaught of millions of tourists that normally fill Piazza Navona today. In Piazza Navona, artists and musicians interact with tourists all the time, giving this square a friendly yet traditional Italian feel. It's the perfect place to take a passeggiata or a stroll throughout the city, so you can get a taste of Rome's great culture and history. In Rome, Melissa Butz, Currents News. Did you know statues could talk? Well, in Rome, they can. Let's hear what they have to say coming up next. This statue is one of 6 in Rome known for speaking, a form of political dissent where written commentary criticizing political and religious leaders are posted right by the statue. It all started 500 years ago with this Pasquino, known as the first talking statue in Rome. The chatter began in 1501 when Cardinal Caraffa, who owned the building attached to this sculpture, organized a literary competition. It quickly backfired when Romans started posting criticisms of the Curia and even the Pope himself. At the height of these statues' popularity, really only Roman nobility and academics could read and write. So what they did was they would share what was written with their neighbors. And this tradition still continues today, with these anonymous notes being called the voice of the Roman people. In Rome, Melissa Butz, Currents News.
And what else was concretely decided at the summit?
The idea for married priests, just like there were some who opposed the idea, I'm sure there were some inside who also would like the idea expanded. But let's remember the final document is all full of proposals. So it's not a magisterial document. It wasn't written by the Pope. The Pope didn't even vote on it. The Synod Fathers will be voting on the final document tomorrow morning, and they say they're not expecting any big changes, maybe cutting out a paragraph or a sentence here or there. And then all of the journalists will be meeting back in the press room around 4 p.m. to find out all of the contents of this final document. After 4 days in a row of descending coronavirus new cases in Italy, today they rose again, reaching over 6,000 for a total of 86,000 cases. As for the school shutdown, though, it could last even longer than these 2 weeks if the coronavirus continues to spread. Meanwhile, middle school, high school, and university teachers all told me that they're going to be trying to implement online video lessons for all of those students throughout the country. Permanently empty classrooms like these are the new reality for at least 98 private schools in the United States who are being forced to close due to coronavirus. Store and restaurant owners desperate to resume their work have a different experience. They say normal won't return until there are tourists. In one sense, there's hope to re-begin, but in another, it's very sad. It's terrible to see this street, which is usually alive with tourism, so empty. What Italians really want is for tourists to return to their country. Flights within the EU are expected to re-begin in June, so at least Europeans can spend part of their summer in Italy. During the lockdown, tourism dropped 68% in Europe and 96% in Italy. It's estimated that from July to September 2020, no travel bans will cost 25 million tourists, making Italy's financial situation even tighter. It should get slightly better as shopping, museums, and exhibits reopen on May 18th and restaurants and hair salons on June 1st. While it's not how Italy was before the lockdown, it's a slow and steady step in the right direction. In Rome, Melissa Butz, Currents News.